Yeah, you can't have your patient come in and sneeze 3 times. I need you to do 3 sets of 10 sneezes for me. Achoo.
Achoo.
So that's a thing that could be helpful. Another thing. You're listening to the Pelvic Freak Show
with your hosts, Amanda Neary and Hannah Meyer. Hey, Pelvic Freaks. Welcome back to another episode of the Pelvic Freak Show.
Where you're freaks for us and we're freaks for the pelvis, baby.
All right, here goes nothing. I promised you all last week, hopefully you listened, that if you tuned in today, you would hear the story of why Hannah had to cover for me at a marketing event on March 28th. And it's a killer. Hannah, what was your reaction when I told you?
I was so surprised.
Me too.
That's just shit that you don't do.
I know. You guys, I have my next bit for stand-up comedy. I had a conference in Charleston, South Carolina last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. In March. And I booked my flight. I get to the airport. I'm working. I was on a roll. When I tell you, Hannah, I was at the gate on a freaking work roll, noise-canceling headphones, just pounding out good shit. I'd had my noise canceling headphones on. I checked the time to see when we were boarding, got like the United text, and I was like, okay, we're boarding. Get on the plane. I get on the plane to Charleston, South Carolina, and I immediately am like, this seems like too small of a plane to go from Chicago to Charleston. Like it just seems like a more popular flight than that. And when I was booking the flight, I saw that there were only 2 options on United for the whole day. And I was like, I thought more people went there from Chicago. Like, I guess it's not as much of a destination as I thought. And then I hear this group of dudes in the aisle across from me. They're all talking about their hunting trip. And I was like, oh, I didn't know Charleston was like a hunting trip, but I think I don't have an understanding of
hunting,
what Charleston's like.
Yeah, and also what it goes into a hunting trip, maybe
at all, but like definitely not a destination in my head where people are going to hunt, right? So I'm on the plane. I'm also getting work done on the flight. It's an hour and a half, which seems normal, and then we start landing, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, we're like kind of landing in the middle of the woods. I guess the airport's far out of the city. We land. I am towards the back of the plane. So I start calling an Uber to the hotel because I notice it's a small airport as we're driving around to the gates. And I'm like, it's not going to take that long to get out of here. I have a carry-on bag. Like, I'll start calling the Uber now. I start calling the Uber to the hotel. It's 5 p.m. It says it's going to be an 8-hour drive. I'm like, that can't be right. I open Google Maps and my heart sinks. Because I see Charleston, South Carolina, and my stupid thing is in West Virginia. And my immediate reaction, I was like, holy shit, it thinks I'm in West Virginia. Like, I thought my phone was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my map hasn't updated. You know how like sometimes when you're mid-flight, it'll like load and update, and then it like doesn't load to your line. I thought that happened. I was like, oh, it still thinks we're in West Virginia. My second thought, after 2 minutes when it still didn't load, was that we emergency landed in West Virginia, and I missed the announcement.
Yeah.
I was like, our plane was breaking down and we had to land in West Virginia. That sucks. And then this is actually when my heart sank. I scroll it on the map and I see that where we landed is also called Charleston. Charleston, West Virginia. And then I checked the airport initials and what I booked and realized I like fully flew to the wrong state.
She literally flew to Charleston, West Virginia instead of Charleston, South Carolina.
They're spelled the exact same, and apparently it's pronounced Charlestown, West Virginia. So
Shut up.
Had I even listened to an announcement and heard Charlestown, I would have known I was on the wrong side.
Is it spelled Charlestown,
It's
like
spelled-
Town?
No, it's spelled Charleston.
Jeez.
I freak out in my head a little bit. Actually, I start hysterically laughing. I'm not even kidding. I looked like a crazy person because I got off the plane. I sat in the gate area and I was like, literally Google flights. I was like, I'm not kidding. The walk to the like entry check-in counter was maybe 2 minutes. Like, this was a tiny military airport. It's not a full airport.
Were you scared there?
Yes, I'll get to that. go on Google Flights because I'm too embarrassed to walk up to the counter and be like, I just flew to the wrong state. I need to go to Charleston, South Carolina. So I find a flight. It leaves in an hour. It's on American Airlines. I'm in the terminal already. I'm like, yes, I book it. Only $300, shockingly. But I had to fly to Charlotte, sit at the airport in Charlotte for 3 hours, then fly to Charleston, get in 6 hours later than I was supposed to on 3 less than 1 hour flights because our original flight was like supposed to be an hour and a half, which I should have flagged was maybe short. I don't even know how long it's supposed to take to get to Charleston. But it ended up being like 59 minutes. Second flight was 34 minutes. Third flight was 35 minutes. Like you can't make this shit up. It was crazy. So I booked that flight. It goes through. I try to download the mobile boarding pass. Doesn't work, probably because the flight was in an hour. So I did end up having to go up to the counter and be like, can you print my boarding pass? And the lady was like, sure. And then she prints it off. She goes, you're going to Charleston, South Carolina? And I was like, yep. It was like,
didn't say anything.
I can't get into it because I'm so embarrassed at this point still. I'm texting everyone I know that I'm like the biggest idiot on earth. I have to go through TSA, which is kind of like, it wasn't even like a real TSA there. It was kind of crazy. And then I just sat at the airport laughing hysterically and telling all my friends I'm such a dumbass.
This is literally the text I got. 4:35 p.m. on Wednesday. Guess who flew to West Virginia instead of South Carolina? All caps. What? How? Look at my story. Bruh, there's a Charleston, West Virginia. I didn't even look at the states. LMFAO. Now I'm in fucking Charlotte waiting to go to the right Charleston. I said, STFU the whole time. Don't they say the state at the gate? I'm literally crying. Dude, that's a Hannah move. She says, all caps, I didn't realize it till I tried to call an Uber in the hotel after landing. It said it would be an 8-hour drive. I said, you're hanging out with me too much. She said, I've been laughing hysterically this whole time. I look insane. I said, honestly, that's actually insanely impressive.
No, honestly, for me to not notice and be in denial after landing is wild to me.
So funny. Like so the amount of times they probably said the state.
Yep. Probably a lot. That's my lesson, to actually listen to a freaking announcement on an airplane. I don't. I'd be putting my headphones on and working most of the time, or I'll just be listening to music.
That is actually insane, dude.
Yeah, no, it was nuts. So anyway, my business conference is Wednesday through Friday, twice a year. Wednesday night is a big networking night. So everyone gets in, we go out to dinner, you catch up with people, you're picking up ideas, all this stuff. I missed all of it. I got in at 2 a.m. Thursday, I was like exhausted. So I had the Thursday night networking. And then the conference ends on Friday, but a large group of my friends was staying, and there were 10 people I was able to like bounce ideas off if I stayed Friday night. And because I didn't have a flight home, because my flight home was out of Charleston, West Virginia,
yep,
I had to book a flight home anyway. So I was like, I'll just stay Friday night and get the extra networking in. So I asked Hannah if she could find someone to cover the marketing event for me Saturday, and she did. She's
so
the
funny.
Best. It's crazy.
So funny.
It was. I will never do that again. I was a little traumatized. I was like, I'm never coming to Charleston again. Unfortunately, Charleston was really freaking cute and good restaurants, good food, good
You're
drinks.
talking Charleston, not Charlestown, right?
I'm talking Charleston.
I want to know what was scary about Charlestown.
Charlestown. Oh my God. And this is not.
And we may have listeners from Charlestown.
Listen, I'm not trying to hate on anyone from West Virginia. I am not a military person. I think it's just not for me. I'll put it that way. You guys know me. It's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
People at the airport were sitting on rocking chairs, looking out the window at military planes, enjoying themselves. And I think that's what scared me. I was like, I'm not in Chicago anymore.
It is always like such a culture shock when you live in such an urban area and then you go to like, it happens to me when I go home to Kentucky all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's different here.
Yeah. And it's just never like, I obviously didn't know Charlestown existed. It's not something I ever thought I would be doing. So it was just it was a culture shock landing in like a totally different area than I thought I was.
And also
landing.
when you're traveling and like stuff like that happens, it is so scary because you're like, am I dumb?
Also, for sure. I was like, I'm the dumbest person.
Like, am I allowed to travel by myself?
It's insane.
I need my mom.
It was honestly more of a culture shock going from Charlestown to Charleston than it was from Chicago to Charleston.
Interesting.
Because Charlestown was so like country, and
Yeah.
Charleston is so preppy. It's like Lily Pulitzer, Vera Bradley,
Okay,
literally
yes.
everywhere. Like we were wearing black leather jackets, me and my friends on Friday night. Everyone was wearing pastel sundresses. Like I just
yeah.
didn't even think.
That's what it's like going to Austin, Texas.
It was wild. I was like, so I'm like, people from Charlestown flying to Charleston would also be like, what? Where the heck am I? Because it's just like a totally different vibe.
That is like so funny because it's like I grew up in like northern Kentucky, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And like it's like Cincinnati going to like Lexington.
Yeah.
And like Keeneland.
Just like
it's
very different vibe.
The complete different vibe. And yeah, that's funny.
The preppy East Coast is not something I've like fully experienced. I don't like the Cape Cod vibe, you know, like
Yes. I felt that way when I went to Austin, Texas, and I wore this like lacy, like black slip dress with like cowboy boots, cowgirl boots. And
so stupid.
and I felt like I looked so hot, and I would have if I was like going out in Chicago for sure, like in the summer. And I did look hot.
You
still,
did look hot.
but
I remember that picture.
everyone in the restaurant was wearing like sundresses. I will never look stupider than I do in a freaking sundress, dude.
You say this a lot.
I don't look good in a sundress.
I don't think I do either. I don't hate. No, I do, but it has to be a specific type of one.
I know.
The types I saw this weekend. No, never, 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 ever, ever, ever.
You know what?
Sorry, I'm hiccuping.
I'll challenge Hannah Linsky to put me in a sundress and make it look good.
You would look good. It would just feel wrong.
Yeah, it would feel wrong. Feel dirty.
Yeah, I feel disgusting.
Anyways,
I'm a woman. I feel like a woman of the church.
I'm gonna need you to stop hiccuping right now.
I can, and I wish I could. Have you guys rated our podcast yet?
Every time you say that, I think you're gonna go, "Have you met Ted?"
That's because you just watched How I Met Your Mother for the first time.
It's been a minute. While it's been a while now.
It's been like not that long.
Okay.
We would love 5 stars. It really helps with outreach, and I think more people need to hear this story. Honestly, it's just too good. So if you could throw us a solid, that'd be awesome.
Throw us a solid.
Beautiful. Should we get into the topic of this episode?
All right, guys. You want to talk about peeing your pants now, or what?
We're going to talk about it. We are extending our Q&A from last week because we had 2 questions about stress incontinence. So we saved them to start off this episode with and get into that diagnosis a little bit, because it's been a while since we've talked about stress incontinence, which is peeing with increases in intra-abdominal pressure or activity, laughing, sneezing, lifting weights, running, anything. That's your stress incontinence.
Yes.
Do you want to read the first question?
Okay, so first question is actually from a pelvic floor PT, and the second question is from a patient, I'm guessing, or a person that has gone to pelvic floor PT. So the first question we got was, any tips on best treatment interventions for SUI patients, which is stress urinary incontinence, that have improved but hit a plateau and still having leakage around 1 or 2 times per week? So maybe you've been treating this patient for a while and they've gotten to a point, but they're like 85%, but they're still having leakage.
Can I just say this happens the most often? This is the hardest diagnosis for me, specifically with runners.
Yes.
So I don't know what this patient was doing or like what their activity is, but when I treat runners and they hit a plateau and it's like, I've gotten better, but it's still there, this is a really tricky diagnosis. It's hard to work with.
Yeah, it
What-
can be tricky.
I have thoughts, but what's your go-to?
For interventions?
Yeah.
All right, guys, let me give you the lowdown. Stress incontinence. I tell people all the time it can be a journey and it can take a long time, but it takes consistency and it is doable, okay? First thing we're doing is checking your pelvic floor muscle coordination, and you're just like your awareness to your pelvic floor. Like, do you know what it feels like to contract? Do you know what it feels like to push out? Do you know what it feels like to engage your core? Do you know what it feels like to do a TA brace? Can you like squeeze, relax, lengthen? That's what I'm working on with people in the room when I'm checking their pelvic floor, AKA doing an internal assessment. In the gym, you got to have your patients jump. You got to have them jump. So you can't just be doing bridges for God knows how long.
Yep.
You can't just be doing clamshells. You can't just be doing this banded stuff. If you're having people that are going to Barry's boot camp and peeing their pants, if you're having people that are going to Orange Theory, if you're having marathon runners, you can't just have them doing bridges. What I start people off on, maybe we're not doing jumping day 1. It depends on how their coordination is, how the severity of their leakage. I'm going based off of this patient case that's 1 or 2 times per week now. One thing that I've been doing actually recently is pogo jumps with people. So I've been tying a big thick O resistance band to like a pull-up bar, having them hold on to it, and I'll have them do like 3 hops with exhaling, breathing out, and trying to cue them to keep their pelvic floor and or even just their core engaged, not making sure your pelvic floor doesn't feel like loose or heavy, you know? So maybe we're just doing 3 hops and then stop, 3 hops and stop. And we're doing that for maybe like 3 rounds of 10 or something like that.
Yes.
And then to progress that, we're progressing. Let's say they start leaking at like rep 8. Okay, we're going to stop at 8. And then we're going to rest and then come back to it. Maybe for their home exercise program, they're going to do a set of 8 hops in a row and then rest. A set of 8 hops. They're going to go right up until where they start to feel that like urgency and then stop. That's an example of something that we'll do because you want to challenge and get the pelvic floor used to that sensation. If you're just doing strengthening all day, you're not training the pelvic floor in a neurological way, I guess. What am I trying to say? A neuro-re-ed way.
Yeah.
You're just strengthening, which is also beneficial. So maybe I'll do that for my warm up. Like we're going to work on cueing the pelvic floor to turn on with a bridge and with a fire hydrant, things like that. But then we're going to get to jumping stuff. We're going to eventually progress to lateral hopping. I do a lot of single leg stability. If it's a runner, that's a single leg exercise. So maybe it's a single leg forward T and you're passing a kettlebell, but you're cueing them to keep their core and pelvic floor engaged, almost like they're holding a plank. And then once from the pogos, maybe you're progressing that eventually to the floor. And this has been working for me lately. This has really been helping a lot. And I've been getting people on the treadmill and they have not been leaking.
Yes. Plyometrics. You're doing true plyometrics. A lot of people don't do real plyometrics. They'll do box jumps and say, that's all you need for plyometrics. Pogo jumps, such a good one. Any change of direction, diagonals with band resistance, hops, especially for runners, people that are like leaking during running, they're moving in the sagittal plane 100% of the time during their preferred activity. They're not working in the frontal plane, which is like side to side, lateral stuff. And they're not working rotation. They're not working in the transverse plane. And those are so important for runners because if you think about what stabilizes you while you're running, it's your rotational abdominals. It's the muscles that rotate your hips because you need that when you're doing those activities. So a lot of people miss the mark on adding rotation into the program. And this is not all on, not 100% on your programming. We don't know why this patient or this person might still be leaking a couple times a week. And I hate the word compliance because it's like it's not the patient's fault, right? It's like if you're not compliant, but it's a huge part of how are you selling physical therapy to this person when they come in for that initial eval, right? This might take a while. I love the way you phrase it to people. This might take a while, but you're going to have to put in some effort. You do have to work at this on your own too, because coming in here once a week and adding in a rotational hop and then trying to do that activity, it's going to take a really long time for that to kick in and make that person better. It has to be something that's sustainable for them to work on outside of PT. So if your programming is solid, if you heard what we just said and you're like, oh, I do all of that and this is still happening, I would say have a bigger lifestyle conversation with the patient about it and what's realistic for them outside of PT, what activities they are doing. Get every single activity down, have them log it, look at their schedule, what could be missing from your programming that they will realistically do at home.
Yes. Another thing, big thing that PTs miss, or I think PTs miss, because I've missed it too. I'll get a patient, they're not a runner. They're not doing plyo stuff. Maybe their exercise is cycling or cycle bar or whatever. And they're not leaking during exercise. It's just an occasional sneeze every now and then. You still need to have them jump and train them that way because it's most likely that they're having an intra-abdominal pressure issue. If they were to one day decide that they want to run a half marathon, it probably would be an issue because there is something missing there.
Yes.
So I would still do the jumping stuff to help with that stress incontinence treatment, even if it's just with like coughing, sneezing and stuff, if it's not a patient that's super active.
Totally. Because plyo is because the reason Why she's saying that is because plyometrics will force the increase in intra-abdominal pressure in the clinical setting.
Yeah.
So it reproduces what happens during a sneeze, cough, anything that they are leaking on, so you can still train it that way.
Yeah, you can't have your patient come in and sneeze 3 times. I need to do 3 sets of 10 sneezes for me. Achoo.
Achoo.
So that's a thing that could be helpful. Another thing I would say, training the knack technique, which is squeeze before you sneeze. Do that with like catching a ball. Have them do like the knack with catching a ball. Maybe you're having them standing on one leg on a Bosu, challenging their balance, and you're cueing them, before you catch this ball, you're going to do a Kegel. You're going to do a quick pelvic floor contraction to mimic that like quick paced, right?
Yes.
And you're throwing the ball in different directions. Maybe you're using like throwing the ball at a trampoline if you have a trampoline in your clinic.
Love that.
Something to throw them off. If they're super severe with leaking, my student actually gave me this tip. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, I freaking love having a student sometimes. They teach me. She said to have them sit on the stability ball and practice with core engagement with just hopping on the ball.
Love that.
They're not actually fully hopping. If you have one of those like lateral like leg presses where you can jump, you could start horizontal plane, which is nice. But I like the pogos, and those work for me honestly a lot.
Yeah, I love that.
Another thing, go ahead.
No, that's good. Keep going.
Another thing I'll say is you need to progress your resistance. You need to get them under a barbell. You need to give them heavier dumbbells. You need to do something more than just banded work that a typical PT clinic only has access to.
This is a really important point.
Yes, we need more resistance training, or you need to find a way to load your patient appropriately, especially if they're a endurance athlete, right?
My biggest issue, and the reason I started this freaking practice that takes up all my time, which I love it with all my heart. The reason I started it is because I couldn't find a clinic that had a freaking barbell in the whole city of Chicago that treated pelvic floor. And physical therapy already has this issue where clinics are under supplied for progressive overload. You add pelvic floor to what you do, and all of a sudden the person furnishing that clinic is like, oh, we just need like a ball and a band. No, you have to progressively overload your patients. If you are building strength in any area of the body and you're not progressively overload, you're not building strength. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to translate it to what they're doing outside the clinic and make sure that program has longevity for them. That's such an important point.
100%. I would say a big game changer at our clinic, if you don't have room for a barbell, Smith machine, whatever, anything like that, you have dumbbells that you can load, right? Use dumbbells, use kettlebells are huge. Those take up not a ton of room.
Yeah.
Cable
and they're not
column.
that expensive.
Cable column has been game changing because you can load the crap out of a cable column and do a lot of things and mimic things that you would do with like free weights in a way.
I love it. I love a pulley system cable column of sorts.
For example, you're probably doing standing hip abductions with a band, but a cable column is game changer. You can load a cable column more, load the glute more.
Yes.
You can do a lot of core stuff with cable column. Find some equipment that can increase resistance for your patients.
My biggest, because we've now ventured into general stress incontinence treatment, which is good.
Yeah.
This was solved. We're so smart. How did I fly to the wrong state?
I don't know.
Actually crazy.
Sometimes something's got to give,
Something's got to give. At least it was that.
It's like we're just so smart that
God.
sometimes our brains need a break.
If that was a lot to like take in for an answer to your question, listener, takeaways are if you're doing all the right programming, but they are hitting a plateau and they're still leaking and they're getting frustrated, I would say look first inside the program, see if there's a change you can make, see if there's a progressive overload to do. Something you heard us say that you haven't tried yet. You could reassess rotation, frontal plane movements, all of that. See if there's something missing from the program. If the programming is great and the patient's not doing it at home, see what needs to be done to make it sustainable for them. Maybe they just need more reassurance and education that the more you stick with this stuff, the better it's going to play out in the long run. Maybe they need an intervention added in, or maybe they're one of those patients that needs a 2-week break from PT to genuinely just reset and come back and try a new version of that program, right? So look at why, if compliance is an issue, look at why that is and see what you can do to help that.
Yeah.
But those are the two takeaways I would say.
Those are some good interventions that we gave in case you're not doing those already.
Yes.
Which I feel like a lot of PTs maybe aren't.
Yeah.
Because on previous clinics I've been in, I don't remember seeing a lot of people practicing jumping things.
Totally.
And I know we have stress incontinence patients coming in, you know. Let's talk about this really quick because this goes off of that. If that scares you of me saying you need to get your patient under a barbell, you need them heavier lifting, you don't necessarily need them under a barbell. I say that for dramatics to push you. There's so many continuing ed courses that can get you more comfortable with heavy lifting and working with athletes. There's so many. ICE is one of them. Look into some continuing ed that can get you more comfortable with working with athletes specifically, so you have the right tools to challenge your patients and you feel confident with challenging them.
And if Hannah's saying that scared you, I will challenge you that this is something you should at least know how to do if your patient is someone who you're treating stress incontinence. If your patient is someone who lifts weights with a barbell, some of my most populous stress incontinence patients have been weightlifters, barbell athletes, Olympic lifters. There is so much stress incontinence in that community. You absolutely should have a proficiency of getting a patient under a barbell, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least the knowledge of it is important. And I think pelvic health is shifting more that way because if you are a PT, you know pelvic health has traditionally been like this form of PT that's like meditative, relaxation, like yoga-y based, but it's shifting because we're getting more research on what actually works.
Totally.
And yes, the relaxation, and that is a part of it, a huge part of it. But there's also this whole subset that a lot of us are missing.
Yeah. And they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You're often treating tension, but you're also building strength and
Yes.
coordination. So we need to do all of it.
There we go.
All right. Should we move on to the next one?
So our second question is from the other point of view, not a treating provider point of view. Would you like to read?
Yeah. It says, I've been to pelvic floor PT in the past and it helped, but I'm having occasional symptoms like peeing when I jump in workout classes or sometimes when I sneeze. I can live with it, but it still happens and is frustrating when it does. Where do I go from here? Great question.
It's literally the exact opposite of the first question.
Right. It's the inverse of it.
It's the inverse of it. Like this person has been to PT, but they're still having occasional leakage. They're in that plateau phase.
What did your PT look like? What does your daily routine look like? Do both of those things support that symptom? The phase you're in right now, where it still happens and it's frustrating when it does, is the hardest plateau to get out of, right? Because you're feeling good most of the time and you feel like, oh, I can stop doing my stuff now because my symptoms are mostly gone. And then when it comes back, you're frustrated because why is it back? Now I have to do all my stuff again. You have the tools to help it get better, but you only do it in crisis when it's happening, when it pops up again, when you have that symptom in your life. And speaking from experience, that's freaking hard. That's how I feel about my SI joint sometimes, where I'm like, oh, it hasn't happened in so long. I could just stop doing this. But I know my life is better when I do the stuff that prevents it from happening again. So it's tricky, and it's not putting blame on anyone for not sticking to anything. But if it's truly like a programming issue, like if you're listening and you heard what we just talked about and you're like, my PT didn't do any of that with me, there might be interventions a different physical therapist could add in for you that would be beneficial.
Yeah, there's so many different interventions. I would say don't give up. It is frustrating, especially I don't know how long this person went to PT for.
Yeah.
Did you go for just maybe, I don't know,
even
3 or 4 visits and then kind of
I would say even 8 visits isn't enough for stress incontinence.
No.
I'm very rarely seeing success with these patients in less than 3 months. And it's not even like 12 visits gets you there. It's like the time you have to put in for the muscle memory, exactly what you said, for treating the neurological opponent of muscle engagement. That takes time. That's a habit you have to build over time.
Yeah. So we don't know what your compliance looked like, your consistency looked like, what your plan of care looked like. But like what Amanda said, what did your plan of care look like based on what we just said? Do you feel like you're missing something and maybe PT could be, I'm not even saying maybe PT could be good to try again. I would say go to PT again.
Yeah.
Maybe try a different provider.
Yeah.
Maybe. I've had people that have stopped coming to me, but they've gotten to the point where they'd leak like 1 or 2 times a week. But for them, they were just like, this is good for me right now. But maybe they'll come back to me. Maybe they'll go see someone else because it didn't work for them. You know, like everyone, just because I know I'm great and amazing, but sometimes my plan of care might not work for someone as much as like another PT's point of view will, you know?
Yeah. And it's also, you're working with a human being. So who do you vibe with? Where's the rapport? Not, this isn't speaking about you. I feel like you have the best rapport.
I know I'm amazing and glorious.
Yeah, we know we're amazing, but we're not for everyone.
Sometimes you just need to vibe with someone in order to get excited about working on your health in a certain way.
For sure. Like I need a certain type of personality in my personal trainer for me to want to show up every week and impress them with my workout.
Yes.
Like that's exactly what it is. You're working with a human being. You're not working with ChatGPT. You're working with a person. So you're going to have to find the best fit for you.
Yep. So ask the questions, call the front desk and ask. I actually love our admin team because they know exactly which each and every one of us likes to treat in our patients that we typically take on, and they pair us with our patients very well.
You've shouted out our admin team 3 times today.
I really have, because it's so helpful. I was actually like, I was just talking to our admin yesterday. I was like, my schedule's been just like so perfect for me lately. And they were like, yeah, like we do that on purpose.
So good.
Like so I know if an older male patient's calling for help, I'm going to put them on Phoebe's schedule. Like I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like
for sure.
So I would call the PT clinic, and the front desk will probably know more. They should know more about what the PTs treat than you.
Totally.
So
love that.
That's my biggest tip. And I don't think we really missed much out of that question. Do you have anything else?
No, I feel pretty good.
Where do I go from here? Obviously, my PT is the first option, I would say.
Book an eval with us.
There are other things that you can talk through and other interventions, but I would say talk through it with your PT that knows your history, knows your case, because there are other things you can do.
Yes.
But we're not going to give you that here because that's going to be so dependent on just for you.
Totally.
If you guys want to know about other options that people have taken for stress incontinence outside of PT, we can talk a little bit about that on another episode.
That could be a good guest episode.
Yeah.
Ooh, guest idea alert.
Ooh.
All right, guys. We loved answering your questions, especially this time around, because they were so, I mean, do you agree? They were like so our ideal listener.
They were.
In the sense that you're really asking us specific questions about pelvic floor conditions where we can just get into it and yap our brains off. And like, this is exactly what we get joy out of in doing this podcast, because we get to create advocacy for pelvic health and destigmatize these conditions that a lot of people live with. So asking questions like this, it just brings us so much joy that we get to talk about this on our podcast. Please go in the link in our bio and ask whatever question you have. And honestly, if it's totally off base, we just won't read it on the podcast. So there's literally no harm. They're anonymous unless you put your name and want a shout out. So just go yap your brains off in our forum.
Yeah, you guys have no idea how much this stuff helps people.
It really does.
It's like when you're sitting in a class and the professor's like, if you have the question, odds are 8 other people in this room have that question too.
100%.
So,
yes. All right, guys, make sure you're following us on social media at the Pelvic Freak Show.
Buy your Pelvic Freak merch if you haven't. Did you see our cute little story of someone wearing a cute little hot, sexy little Pelvic Freak tank the other day?
We get so many compliments on the Pelvic Freak tank. It being like the perfect fit, the perfect vibe, just goes with things. I love it.
If you guys do order the oversized big T, just know it is hella oversized.
It's really oversized. And honestly, I'd size down on the tank.
Austin, I size down on the tank. So I usually wear like a small medium in shirts. I got an extra small in the tank because I wanted it like tight baby tee. Austin usually wears an XL in t-shirts. He had to get a size medium in the t-shirt for it to fit like a comfortable oversized for him.
And I usually wear a medium or large shirt, and the small baby tank is the right size for me. So definitely size down in that. I never wear a small, and it's perfect.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye, Pelvic Freaks.
Bye, Pelvic Freaks.